Welcome to BNS About Movies. This is Sam. It's January, and I know that a lot of you are watching Giallo this month. You may have started to run into the fact that you've run out of Giallo to see maybe new ones, or maybe you're looking for something a bit unexpected. So allow me to be your guide for this episode. My thought is let's put together some of the most lesser known, perhaps, and my favorite Giallo, and maybe you'll discover them, maybe you'll love them. Up first is Obsession, A Taste for Fear.
Obsession, a taste for fear. Her art created illusion. Illusion became her life. You all right? Her life became a nightmare.
And your sex life complications are not my fascination.
Disclaimer for this entire episode, I can't pronounce American words, much less Italian ones or some of the other languages we'll be getting into, but Obsession, A Taste for Fear is a 1988 Italian film. Its original Italian title is Pathos Segreta Inquidine, which means Passion's Secret Anxiety. That pretty much sums up the film. This is a giallo that feels like it could be a Cinemax After Dark film. This is in the time and place where we're kind of in between the giallo and the erotic thriller. This mixes up murder with a little bit of softcore, but it's the only giallo I've ever seen that has Lou Graham's Midnight Blue in it, which is a first. That's also the only movie that director and writer Picio Raffagnani ever made, which is pretty astounding because the guy definitely had talent. So this stars Diane, is the lead in it. She's Virginia Hay. She was in The Road Warrior, and she's also, I'll never say this right, Pahal Zato Zahn from Farscape. If there's any Farscape fans watching, I apologize. Also, I've never watched that show, so I'm sorry. But anyway, Diane's a photographer whose favorite model and lover, Tegan, has shown up bound and dead, just like the adult photos that Diane has just taken pictures of. If that sounds a lot like The Eyes of Laura Mars, congratulations, you probably watched enough Giallo to get that. Also, Tegan is Tegan Clive, who's in a ton of movies. She is in The Alienator, which if you were in video stores back in the 80s, you definitely saw Tegan in that. She's also Bimbo Cop from Vice Academy Part 2. She's also in Enzo Castellari by way of Luigi Cozzi's Sinbad of the Seven Seas. She plays Sakura. She's in Inner Zone, which is another Italian movie. It's Darren Serafian, but it has an American crew. It's a Trans World Entertainment movie. It's an absolute mess as well, but she's definitely in that. And it was produced by David Hills, and if you don't know who David Hills is, let me tell you, that's Joe D'Amato. And there's also Jumpin' Jack Flash. She plays a Russian exercise woman in that, and then she's in Armed and Dangerous. That's the last movie she was in. She's really very much a large weightlifter. I spent way too much time talking about Tegan Clive, but I'm kind of obsessed when she shows up in a movie. Anyways, Diane is suspected in the murder, and that puts Lieutenant Arnold, who is Dario Parsini, on the case. She also suspects Diane's ex-husband, particularly after other people close to her end up tied up and stabbed, and they look a lot like the photos she's been taking, again, like Laura Mars. This movie has a lot of strange people in it. Eva Grimaldi, who was in Demons 5, and Ratman's in it. And it's also one of the many movies in this era that Kid Creole from Kid Creole and the Coconuts shows up. I don't know why he shows up in several Italian movies at the time. He also did an album with Eva Grimaldi. He's the last dude I expected to see walking in on a Giallo film. I have no idea what's happening.
Oh, baby, not yet.
Yeah, it was Eva Grimaldi and Kid Creole and the Coconuts, and that song's called Not Yet. They have a club mix of it too. But yeah, they put an album out right after this. I might assume that they were dating at the time. Anyway, I love that the first time someone goes to a nightclub in Obsession, A Taste for Fear, there are people of small height dancing. There are muscular folks dancing. There are mirrors covered with cocaine. There are quick cuts, and then probably synth Gershwin songs. Obsession, A Taste for Fear is a completely deranged movie. It does have a giallo plot. It's one that supposes that this is a world where everybody wears sunglasses at night. It is 1988, so it is very neon. It is very fog. All colors come straight out of Dario Argento's world. Softcore porn photographers are the largest celebrities in the world. Cars can hover. This movie is also has a lot of Blade Runner in it. At no point does it set up that it's in the future for you. So not only will cops hover and no one notices, the cops also all have laser guns. When the first time I saw this movie, it completely blew my mind when this scene happened. So imagine if Rent's Dream made a Giallo and had the money to get legitimate recording artists to appear on the soundtrack. Do some lines of coke, then you'll have some idea of how weird this movie is, which demands, why is this not released from a boutique label? I have no idea why Severin or Vinegar Syndrome or anyone hasn't put out Obsession to Taste for Fear, other than the fact that maybe the rights are tied up somewhere. But it's definitely something else, and it's definitely a movie to enjoy. Next movie is Marta from 1971. Marissa Mel is the female George Eastman. I mean, she doesn't act like a wild-eyed, gigantic maniac that eats babies, but it's just that no matter what movie she appears in, just her name being above the credits generally guarantees that I'm going to watch it. Marta is also known as Dopo de Che, Oseo, El Mischio e la Devora. After that, it kills the male and devours it. I mean, that's a great title, but Marta's pretty good too. Don Miguel is Stephen Boyd, who you may remember from Ben-Hur. He is a haunted man. He is missing his dead mother. He also had a wife who may have been murdered. And he meets a gorgeous runaway named Marta, who is Marissa Mel, who may have killed the man she was running from. I haven't seen any of Jose Antonio Nieves Conde's films before, but this movie makes me want to hunt down every single one of them. The strange thing is this movie pretty much kind of is a true story, as Boyd and Mel fell in love as they made this and The Great Swindle one on top of the other. Boyd didn't want anything to do with Mel at first. He must have been made of stone or something, but he eventually fell for her, and they married in a gypsy ceremony near Madrid, cutting their wrists and sealing their blood together. The couple was so possessed by the mystical and sexual desire that they felt for one another that they even had it exorcised at one point in another ritual so they could leave one another alone. Boyd claimed that he had to run away from her as the relationship physically and mentally exhausted him. Mel told the Akron Beacon Journal, a reporter from Akron, Ohio, got to talk to Marissa Mel. My dreams are so small. She said, "We both believe in reincarnation. We realized that we've been lovers in 3 different timelines. And in each one, I made him suffer terribly." And back to the movie. Well, one more thing about Marissa Mel. Marissa Mel was also dating, in the same year this happened, Pierluigi Torri, an aristocratic nightclub owner who had fled the country after a cocaine scandal. He was arrested in London after it was discovered he had a $300 million gold mine and had also scammed a bank, somehow escaped his jail cell, and ran away from the police across rooftops, escaping from London to America for 18 months. Marissa Mel dated Danger Diabolik not only in the movies as Eva Kant, but in real life when she dated Pierluigi Torri. So let's talk again about the movie. Marissa Mel's character, Marta, has come to live with Miguel, who collects insects, and has 2 servants who keep things tidy. She enters his life by claiming she's on the run for a self-defense murder. Miguel protects her from the police because she looks like his wife Pilar, who is also played by Mel, who has either left him or was killed. He's also tormented again by the death of his sainted mother, who may or may not be who she says that she is. Marta is also now acting as Pilar to throw off the police off the scent of the man that she either wants to marry or destroy. Marta is a giallo. It's also kind of an Italian Gothic, but it's made in Spain. But it's also very dreamlike throughout. There's a continual obsession with placing Marissa Mel in front of mirrors. I have no problem with this. I'm not trying to be sexist, but she is perhaps one of the most beautiful women who has ever lived. And for someone who has rarely used outside of her sex appeal in films, she's really haunting here. Spain even put this movie forward for Oscar consideration. And, I hate the Oscars every year. I hate watch it, but God, if Marissa Mel was up for an Oscar, I would 100% be into it. This movie definitely rips off Hitchcock, but it wallows in sin, which I adore, and it's very Giallo-esque. Somehow, someway, this movie aired on syndicated TV. It's part of Avco Embassy's Nightmare Theater package, and it's amazing the movies in this package. that aired on normal TV, and those would be A Bell from Hell, Death Smiles on a Murderer, Maniac Mansion, Night of the Sorcerers, Fury of the Wolfman, Baba's Hatchet for the Honeymoon, Horror Rises from the Tomb, Dear Dead Delilah, Doomwatch, Witch's Mountain, Mummy's Revenge, and The Witch. Can you imagine tuning in to, I know these all aired on Pittsburgh's Chiller Theater, and being confronted by these movies? We used to be so much better. Anyways, that's Marta. If you are a Marissa Mel fan, I will tell you that she also has 2 songs that came out on a single together, Slave of Love and Lady O. And while I would like to play all 7 minutes of those on this show, I know there's some that would not be ready for it. The music really sounds like something that comes out of a disco by way of Rocky Horror, with her breathlessly talking above it, which I find intoxicating. You may be driven insane by it, but I'm going to play a little 30-second clip of it to cleanse your palate before we get to the last movie of this episode.
To be your lady, oh. If it fulfills hidden desires, let me be your lady, oh. Let me be your lady, oh.
If the sound of those windshield wipers felt a little familiar, perhaps you're thinking that this next movie is going to be Sergio Martino's The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. You'll be partially right. This is Aska Susayanlar Seks via Cinayet, which is 1972's Thirsty for Love, Sex, and Murder, a Turkish film that is less than an hour long, has a different ending, but is otherwise 100% Sergio Martino's The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. I was astounded to discover that this movie exists, much less be able to find it. You know, for all the horrible things you can say about the internet and social media, and do whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Remember that we live in a world where somehow we can easily find Turkish remixes of Italian movies that only people like me can get obsessed about. Director Mehmet Aslan also made the astonishing Turkan and the Blood of the Vikings, a movie that is equally has me baffled and compelled. He also made Lion Man 2, The Witch Queen, which is the sequel to Kilik Aslan, which we know here as The Sword and the Claw. If you haven't seen The Sword and the Claw, I advise you to stop listening to this podcast and go watch it. Anyway, Mine is Meryl Cesarin. She is married to Metin Nahan Zalian, but she can't escape the sexual feelings that arise when she thinks of the brutal way that Tarek, who is Yadrim Genser, who was Clinic in Clinic Strip and Kill, which is a diabolic ripoff, used to make love to her. Of course, Meryl Zaren is supposed to be Edwidge Fenech. Yadrim Genser is supposed to be Ivan Rasimov, but they're nowhere near as good as them, but that's the very definition of a tall order, right? Also, that sentence may be the deepest film comment I've ever made, and I realize that my wife is very obsessed with film, and there's no one for me to talk about this in my life. So I'm just talking to you. When I'm inside your ears right now, you're the only person in the world that cares about hearing about this, trust me. Anyway, Thirsty for Love, Sex, and Murder. Mine's best friend is Oya, who's Eva Bender, who is Gosha the Sorceress in Tarkan the Gold Medallion. And she's Carol from the original movie, and she's introducing our heroine to a new lover, Yilmaz, who is Kidra Danyar, who would be George Hilton for those playing at home. There is a Giallo-style straight razor-wielding killer, in case you're wondering. Even if you've seen this movie before, you really haven't seen this movie before, because Turkish trips are almost like going to that wavy mirror in the funhouse, presenting the familiar while distorting it in ways that you see and adore in a whole new way. Also, their ideas of what is sexy are a lot different than Italy's. This will not go as far as Sergio Martino. There is no paper dress to be ripped off at a party, which is my favorite part of The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. Well, it is also a movie where a woman's strange vice is getting bottles broken on her. God, it's my favorite Giallo. In case anyone asks, like, I hate being absolute, right? But Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, you cannot beat it. I know Argento made The Bird of the Crystal Plumage and Deep Red and Tenebrae and some amazing movies. And your taste can be whatever it wants. But for sheer lunacy, Strange Vice is really good. Actually, Sergio Martino made like 5 insane movies, and I say insane with love. I say things like anyways, anyhow, insane, weird, crazy a lot on this show. You should start a drinking game as I say them. But for my money, and I don't have a lot, Sergio Martino is the absolute best. It's crazy seeing, I just said it again. It is amazing to see another culture adapt it. I'm shocked that more people haven't ripped them off, but I would also be sad if more did. Anyway, that's a whole bunch of Giallo and a lot of other strange things that came along the way, too. If you'd like to hear more, let me know. I also have a letterbox list that has a couple hundred Giallo movies. If you're looking for a new one to get added, reach out, talk to me, bnsaboutmovies@gmail.com. Check out the whole site at bnsaboutmovies.com. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Giallo January.